Hey, y'all remember the nigga from Woman Dot Art Loose that was touching on his goddamn stepdaughter?
Hey man, come on, bro. Don't get another movie. Get another movie.
What movie, y'all?
Hello out there in TV land. Take a look at your monitors.
Hi, I'm Destiny from As Told by Destiny. You're watching YouTube. Is this one of the most underrated black films of all time? Today we'll be taking a deep dive into Silver Brand, a 2002 film based on prison corruption. Now, in 2002, I was just 3 years old, so I highly doubt I was there for this movie in real time. But somewhere along the way, BET started airing it, and that's how it got introduced into my life. Like a whole lot of movies I had no business watching at the age I was watching them. But since I was a wee child, I've always noticed that Silver Brand doesn't get the attention that I feel it rightfully deserves. Maybe that's because it's overlooked, forgotten, or simply not worth the hype for real. Let's get into it. The movie starts off instantly giving me PTSD from the time I spent in the Carmen hip hop universe because we have the Brat as our narrator. She's playing a character by the name of Sabrina, who the movie quickly lets you know just won an abuse case against a correctional facility called the Whitehead Correctional Institute, along with 24 other women. So of course my immediate thought is,
What's going on?
but I don't have to wonder for too long because now Sabrina's going to tell us how it all came about in her own way.
I know what you want, but I'm going to tell you the story my way.
We go back in time with Sabrina. She's on a bus obviously headed towards Whitehead, sent by a woman she mentions by the name of Frances in her narration. Frances is played by Lisa Ray Fine-Ass McCoy, who's actually the Brat's real life sister. Fun fact. Now, one thing I can't help but to point out is by the way Sabrina is telling this story, you would think she's the main character or at least one of them, right? But no, she's not. In fact, the overall plot of this movie is centered around everybody but Sabrina. Besides her popping in and out to narrate, we barely see her interact with any of the other characters, yet somehow she's privy to every single detail needed to tell this story. Movie logic, I guess. But just remember, if there's ever a point where the plot loses you a little bit or you get a little confused, Sabrina is going to be here every step of the way to narrate back to you exactly what you just saw. I promise. Anywho, Sabrina has an interaction with Frances where she helps her adjust her handcuffs. To me, I think that's supposed to show that Frances isn't someone who has been in and out of jail. She has this innocence and timidness about her that makes you wonder what she could have done to end up in this situation.
What's going on?
Then we arrive at the Whitehead Correctional Institute where we come face to face with a man who would probably scare the devil.
One of Satan's greatest soldiers.
Captain D's played by Clifton Powell, and if you know anything about the black movie universe, then you should already know anytime you see Mr. Clifton Powell on the screen, you should brace yourself because there's no telling what that man is about to be on. And that's not me saying that Mr. Clifton Powell is always playing diabolical and demonic characters, but
Hey, y'all remember the nigga from Woman Dot Art Loose that was touching on his goddamn stepdaughter?
Hey man, come on, bro. Don't get another movie. Get another movie.
What movie, y'all?
I'm simply saying I've seen him do some horrendous things on screen with a performance that could only lead to the conclusion that he was struggling to pay his rent in real life. I mean, he was playing those characters a little too well, so I'm always a little cautious when I see him. Being Pinky does help his on-screen reputation a little bit, but not that much. I still don't trust him on sight, and I promise this movie is a prime example of why. And for that exact reason, I'm going to call his character Captain Demon instead of Captain Deese. I have to call him like I see him. Anywho, Captain Demon starts laying out the rules for the new women who just arrived, and I understand that it's not supposed to feel like they're on vacation, but he's definitely overdoing it.
You will not be able to eat, sleep, or go to the bathroom without permission.
Barely a minute into the introduction of his character, and you can already put together that A, he's a loser in his regular life, so B, he comes to work every day to get his rocks off by being in control of a bunch of helpless women. And by the way he's behaving, you would think he's more in charge of things than he really is, but no, Sabrina pops in to explain that he's not even the warden of the facility. He's just the overglorified correctional officer who feels like he owns the place due to being there for 17 years and seeing a lot of other wardens come and go. Captain Demon feels like everything and everybody in there belongs to him, so be very afraid. Then Frances gets escorted to her cell while Sabrina confirms in her narration that this is her first time being in a place like this. As Frances tries to adjust to her new surroundings, we are introduced to 3 other women who are very crucial to the plot. Lil Mama, played by Lark Voorhees. Her character is 17 years old, locked up for the first time too, and pregnant. Frances becomes her cellmate.
I hope you'll be comfortable. You can put your stuff up there. Maybe I'll help you make your bed later, clear out some space.
Nikki, played by Nabushe Wright. Her character is the defiant type, I guess. She's been in and out of Whitehead twice, and Lil Mama says Nikki has everybody in there shook but her.
I don't want in here.
You don't have a choice.
All she gonna learn from me is how to be an insubordinate.
And last but not least, Wet, played by Monica Calhoun, who describes herself as a Hotep girl. So I guess that means she's the main one in there trying to fight for their rights.
Hotep? Yeah. That's my clique. It's our job to wake everybody up.
Wet is the first person to ask Frances what she's in for, and this is when we found out that our girl is down for murder. Murder? Nikki, who's obviously judging Frances based on looks because she has no other reason not to like the woman. I mean, she just got there. But Nikki chimes in and says that Frances doesn't look like a murderer, she looks like a high yellow sedity. I mean, just rude for no reason, but she fine, so I'ma let it slide for now. Anywho, then Lil Mama, who you can already tell is the resident sweetheart, tries to explain to Frances how things work around there, but she's interrupted by Wet, who feels it's more important for Frances to know how the women in there are being terrorized. Then Wet brings up some kind of petition she's trying to get everybody to sign, but she's cut off by it being time for lockdown.
All right, Frances.
Now it's the next day, I'm assuming, and this is where we get more insight into the abuse and exploitation that's happening within the walls of the Whitehead Correctional Institute. While they're waiting to begin their day's work, Wet starts talking about an inmate who got bit by a rat the other night. Lil Mama tells her to stop complaining about it out loud so she won't give them any reason to throw them on lockdown. Now, why simply voicing your opinion would get everybody thrown on lockdown, I don't know, but it's alarming.
Lockdown? That shit ain't never gonna happen. Slow down their productivity.
Even though she was called a high yellow sedity, Frances is still keeping close to Lil Mama, Nikki, and Wet, most likely because Lil Mama is her cellmate and she don't know nobody else. She laughs at Nikki's productivity comment, and this is when Lil Mama feels it's the right time to let Frances in on how a regular day at Whitehead plays out. She tells her that for $1.50 a day, first they wake up at 5:30 a.m., then work in a sweatshop until 12 noon, then they get 1 hour in the yard, eat, and have 1 hour of phone time before they have to clean up, unload trucks, and then help with dinner. And I guess that cycle just keeps repeating itself daily.
No, that can't be right. That's illegal. Hell no, that shit ain't legal.
While working in the sweatshop together sewing clothes, Lil Mama questions Frances about why she's in there again, causing us to get more details about the matter. We learned that Frances accidentally killed her husband while he was abusing her, so basically Frances is innocent. Sounds like self-defense, but Lil Mama's situation is a bit different. She reveals that she's in there for murder also, but it wasn't an accident. She killed her stepfather. And because of that, even as a child, I always concluded that her stepfather was who she was pregnant by, because in my mind, he must have been doing some horrendous things to her for her to feel like she had to off him. And it does get confirmed later on in the movie that I sadly concluded correctly.
Damn.
Anywho, then Lil Mama wants to know from Frances if she has any children, and Frances tells her about her daughter Maxine, who she keeps a picture of in a locket around her neck.
She has asthma. I worry about it so much.
She's cute.
This prompts Lil Mama to start talking about how everybody in there has children, even Nikki and Wet, but unfortunately their children were taken away from them due to them being incarcerated. Then Lil Mama tells Frances to get ready because Mother's Day in there is real sad, and I just know it is. But Frances optimistically says that once she gets her appeal, she'll be out of there, so that's not really something she's concerned about right now. But tragically, Lil Mama doesn't have the same hope because she still has 5 years to go, and you can see in her eyes that she's most likely concerned about what will become of her baby during all that time.
Damn.
Then the women have their yard time, and while this is happening, we're introduced to a new correctional officer played by Mos Def. He has a name, but I'll be calling him C.O. Def because I just like the way that sounds. C.O. Def is a college student who just plans on using the money he makes as a correctional officer for tuition and student loans. So he doesn't have a passion for the career, he just needs the money. Now, C.O. Def was able to get the job at Whitehead due to having some pull with the warden, whose name is Nelson. Warden Nelson and C.O. Def's father attended the same college, but still, Captain Demon is acting like he's the one C.O. Def has to answer to.
I'm the new correction officer. I'm supposed to be starting on Wednesday.
And what are you doing there now?
He's acting as if nothing moves or operates without his say-so, which is simply not the case. CO Def was getting that job with or without him interviewing him. Sir, move around please. Back on the yard, we meet Aisha, played by Tashina Arnold, because everybody, they mama and they little sister are in this movie. In her narration, Sabrina refers to Aisha as Captain D's latest piece of meow, who runs back and tells him everything. It's a surprise to no one that Captain Demon, a man I know for sure is a loser in his regular day-to-day life, is using his position of power at his place of employment to take advantage of imprisoned women sexually. Nobody is surprised. Anywho, Aisha and Nikki make a bet over the volleyball game they're playing, but just end up throwing hands instead due to Aisha throwing the ball at Nikki. Captain Demon gets the call that they are out there tussling in the middle of his talk with CO Def, and they both rush outside to get things under control. Well, CO Def rushed out there to get a taste of what the job would be like, while Captain Demon rushed out there to flex his authority.
Stop it!
He runs up and wants to know who started it, and out of all people, he wants to know the answer from Frances. Frances, who can only speak on what she saw or say nothing at all and potentially face the wrath of Captain Demon, points out Aisha as the one who started it. But even with that information, Captain Demon still has some very hostile energy towards Nikki.
I ain't do nothing.
Shut your ass. That's for me to decide.
Showing that they may have history that hasn't been revealed to us just yet. And to play on that even more, while walking away, Captain Demon tells CO Def that all the women in there are like animals and need discipline and structure. Then he says, especially Nikki, and he adds some very disturbing shit about how he's the only one who can discipline her.
You know, it's kind of funny. She's got this stupid little crush on me. You saw the way she was looking at me, didn't you? She gets upset if I don't give her enough attention. You know how young girls are. Yeah.
Just real nasty, real funky, real stanky. I hate everything about having to endure a man like Captain Demon, but I must continue. Then he goes back to how Sabrina said Captain Demon feels like he owns the place. He tells CO Def that Warren Nelson may have hired him, but if he has a problem, he's the first and last person he needs to talk to.
I run this motherfucking prison, not Nelson. Don't you ever forget that.
But then when Warden Nelson shows up, Captain Demon starts acting and talking real different.
Speaking of the devil, here comes the warden now.
It's the warden.
Hey, how are you?
That's suspicious. That's weird.
Once they're alone, Warden Nelson tells Captain Demon about a corporation called Wall Corp that will be coming to visit the prison real soon. He wants to make sure that Captain Demon has all his people up to speed and in line for their arrival. Turns out that the state is actually looking into shutting down the Whitehead Correctional Institute, but with another facility failing to meet Wall Corp's expectations, the new funding could potentially keep Whitehead open. Now, do you think that Warden Nelson and Captain Demon are excited about this possibility because they are humanitarians who care about making their prison a better place for the women who have to live there?
No ma'am. No ma'am. No ma'am.
Of course not. They're in it for the money.
Nothing will change but the size of our paychecks, baby.
See, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
Then we jump to Captain Demon in his office, where Aisha comes in to thank him for taking her side at the volleyball game. We never get much background on Aisha as a character, but life had to be real rough for a man like Captain Demon to be making her feel special in any kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for checking Nikki at the volleyball game. You know, letting her know who's important around here.
But Captain Demon, being the nasty, funky, stanky, vile, repulsive creature that he is, just has to put Aisha in her place. I mean, he just couldn't help it, I guess.
Stupid. You ain't important. Don't you ever think that you are.
I hate this man so much, but this scene is important because it shows that Captain Demon has a pre-recorded tape of himself doing paperwork at his desk that he switches out for the real-time footage anytime he's in that office doing something diabolical. It would be crazy if that were to come back and bite him in the ass. Anywho, after being degraded by Captain Demon, Aisha decides to take her anger and frustration out on Frances when she catches her outside, but karma shows up immediately when Nikki comes around the corner and stabs her up in broad daylight.
Give me that. Game over.
Then we meet Cervantes, played by MC Light, and I promise this is the last person we're going to be introduced to. Cervantes is the only female correctional officer that they show, and Sabrina says that some women attempt to go to her with their problems, but she is often too busy trying to earn stripes with the warden and biting down on all the new male guards.
Maybe we can go to lunch or something you can explain.
So in other words, with Cervantes being a woman, you would expect her to somewhat sympathize with the other women in there and feel the need to lend a helping hand, but she cares more about her job, I guess. Then during phone time, Frances is called into Captain Demon's office to talk to the warden. Before the warden arrives, Captain Demon starts talking to her about how she'll do better in there if she speaks up more.
Who knows, you might become a trustee one day.
Knowing what I know, his nasty, funky, stanky, vile, repulsive ass is just hoping he can get a piece of her.
Yeah.
Then Warden Nelson arrives, and the reason he wanted to talk with Frances is because it was reported that she was in the area when Aisha got stabbed, and he wants to know if she saw who did it. But Frances, who obviously learned her lesson about speaking up after what occurred because of the volleyball game, doesn't tell them anything. Alone in the office together, Captain Demon tells Warden Nelson that Frances definitely knows something, and he asks if he wants him to lock down the unit until they get answers. But in so many words, Warden Nelson basically tells him to shut his bitch ass up. He says they can't lock down the unit because they gotta keep everybody working. And Captain Demon, who has a lot of energy when it comes to those women, just responds with a yes, sir.
Damn it, Deese, no, we can't lock the unit down. We gotta keep everybody working. Yes, sir.
So basically, the warden puts Captain Demon in his place, and in turn, to regain his manhood, he puts a bunch of powerless women in their place. Got it.
You're a loser.
This point is emphasized even more when while CO Def is allowing Frances to get the phone time she missed due to being in the office, Warden Nelson wants to know from Captain Demon how CO Def is doing on the job. Captain Demon tells him that CO Def is doing okay, but he would prefer somebody with military training because college boys are a little too soft for him. This is when Warden Nelson tells Captain Demon that he went to college, then he gets in his face and says, "Are you trying to say I'm too soft?"
No, sir. No, sir.
Loser.
We cut back to Frances on the phone with her daughter Maxine, and she's understandably very emotional.
I want to see you too.
Then things get even sadder when the phone cuts off before Frances can even get a proper goodbye with her child. CO Def is standing right there and hears the whole ordeal, and since he's not nasty, funky, stanky, vile, and repulsive like Captain Demon, he actually shows Frances some compassion.
Your daughter's alright? Everything's okay with you doing?
Then Frances walks back to her cell. Wet, Nikki, and Lil Mama see her, and Wet is wondering if she said something to Warden Nelson about Nikki being the one who stabbed Aisha. Nikki says that since they're not on lockdown and she's not being thrown in solitary, then Frances must have kept quiet. Lil Mama chimes in and basically says that Frances' talking is not something they need to worry about because she's not even that kind of person. So I guess her and Frances got closer in the cell together if she feels like she can vouch for her. Anyways, even with no concrete proof that Nikki stabbed Aisha, Captain Demon still shows up to her cell later that night with some other officers acting like that's the reason he's there. He uses it as an excuse to lay hands on Nikki with his nasty, funky, stanky, vile, and repulsive ass.
Hey, Nikki! Wake up, baby. Look here, I know you stabbed Aisha, Nikki.
While this is happening, Sabrina comes in and finally gives us a little bit of the history between Nikki and Captain Demon. She says that back when Nikki first arrived, Captain Demon was crazy about her, but Nikki hated his guts. That made him start singling Nikki out and picking on her and her friend group.
Everybody knew what was up. Ain't no secrets in jail.
A little time goes by and we end up in a place I don't want to be, but it's a part of the journey. Captain Demon is in the break room chopping it up with some other officers and making fat jokes as if he has the room to talk about anybody or anything.
My friend's wife was so fat, you tell her the whole ass, she gotta make 2 trips.
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, I'm throwing tomatoes.
Then CO Def walks in and lets him know that the toys on block 4 are clogged up and it's starting to smell up there.
Well, that's good. Might offset the smell of some of them stank ass bitches.
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, I'm throwing tomatoes.
Then some random white CO whose name I don't know because he wasn't important enough for an introduction comments that everything in there is broken. He says it won't be long before the state shuts them down, which is why he's already looking for another job. But Captain Demon tells him not to be a fool because of the funding they're expecting to get from Wall Corp.
You know what I know, you keep your ass right here. It's about Wall Corp. I'm still looking for a job.
Then, for no reason at all, just because he's nasty, funky, stinking, and repulsive, Captain Demon can't help but to throw shade at CO Def, a man who's everything he's not. He tells the white CO that the real most pressing issue occurring at Whitehead is soft college boys with connections coming in and taking everybody's jobs.
I just told you he was a college boy. Him and Nelson go way back.
Nigga, CO Def ain't got nothing to do with why y'all are on the brink of being shut down.
Stop it. Get some help.
This leads to CO Def overly explaining why he feels he needs the job just as much as Captain Demon and the white CO. But then he adds that he didn't know the job would be like this though. He says it's rough, especially with how some of the women in there get treated sometimes. Oh, that's the wrong shit to say around Captain Demon.
What the fuck are you talking about? These women are thieves, murderers, drug addicts. And if by chance they do get out of here, they're gonna pray on their fucking knees never to get back in here again.
I just know his breath was hot as hell. Their interaction with Captain Demon leads to CO Def doing some research on the business side of prison. He ends up learning something that's really not a secret, that sometimes rehabilitation is the last goal when it comes to the prison system. Money is the main goal. Now he has to wrap his head around the fact that those women in there are getting paid $1.50 a day to sew something somebody and friends might be paying $1,000 for next month, on top of all the other shit that's already going on within the walls of the Whitehead Correctional Institute. There's a lot going on. Later that same night, I'm assuming because this movie honestly doesn't have a clear timeline, I don't know how long it's been since Francis got off that bus, but anywho, Lil Mama starts having some pregnancy complications in the wee hours of the night, and it's real scary, traumatic, and dramatic. Plus, Lil Mama is the Bible-toting sweetheart of the movie, so you definitely don't want to see anything bad happen to her. But luckily, Francis has some nursing history that comes in clutch.
No blood. Thank God.
This moment is a point because it softens Nikki's attitude towards Francis. Somewhere off screen, Lil Mama told Nikki and Whit about Francis being in there for murdering her husband, and now Nikki is actually interested in hearing Francis' story. This leads to Whit and her discovering that Francis is basically innocent.
That shit is crazy. He's beating your ass, and you're supposed to just lay there and take it and not defend yourself.
Whit tells Francis that she should have been her lawyer, and she comments more so to herself that she would have been a great lawyer. You can see all over her face that she now regrets doing what landed her in Whitehead, and she should because it's dumb as hell. She shot a track star in the leg in front of 1,000 people for messing with her man.
With nobody else's man, right, Way?
She won't be running any more races either. Feel bad about that.
You know, some girls are willing to do a lot in the name of a man, but
No, sir. Not me.
it just could never be that serious, and there's nothing anyone could sell or tell me to make me believe anything different. It just can't be that serious. Anywho, the next day in the sweatshop or the next few days, like I said, it's not clear. But Nikki ends up giving Francis back a locket that she's been holding on to since snatching it off Aisha. I guess she needed to get a feel for Francis before she warmed up to her, but even without warming up to that lady, she should have been gave that locket back. Why are you holding on to a picture of somebody else's child? But that's neither here nor there. Francis and Nikki have a moment that ends with Nikki saying that maybe she'll make Francis her little sister in there, so now their one-sided animosity is put to bed.
You're all right with me, Sadiddy.
My name is Francis.
All right, Francis.
This is something I've been ignoring up until this point, but this is when Sabrina's narrating really starts to irritate me. After the heartwarming moment between Nikki and Francis, she says in her narration,
all we had was each other, and sometimes a little support from the outside.
I'm sorry, but Sabrina, baby, who is this we? I've been in this universe for well over 30 minutes, and it's already been established that Francis, Nikki, Lil Mama, and Whit are our main characters. Besides her interaction with Francis on the bus way earlier in the movie, Sabrina has not interacted with these women at all.
Who is we?
Uncle Howard, come on now.
Who the fuck is we?
Come on.
No, first you gotta say, who in the fuck is we? Ain't no motherfucking we.
That's the main comical thing about Sabrina narrating this story. She doesn't have a role in anything that moves the plot along, yet she inserts herself every 5 to 10 minutes to talk about something we never see her in the mix for. Who is this we? Anyway, Sabrina brings up a rare day in Whitehead that started in good spirit. Nikki was expecting to have a visit with her mom to finally see and hold her twin women boys for the first time, Sabrina narrates that Captain Demon wouldn't even let her touch them before handing them to her mom back when she gave birth. And Frances was expecting to meet up with her lawyer to talk about her appeal. The girls were probably feeling better than they had in a long time. And CO Delph even felt the need to make Nikki feel special because you could see how much effort she put into her appearance for her sons and mom.
Like going to the prom or something. Very nice.
But sadly, Nikki's mom never showed up and Frances's appeal got denied.
Damn!
And to make matters worse, after that, Whitehead started working the women longer and longer in the sweatshop while sometimes sending them to bed with nothing but sleep to eat. This is when Sabrina says they got fed up and Wet said they had to do something. The petition Wet brought up earlier comes back around. I guess it was about the mistreatment in Whitehead and Wet was collecting signatures to take it to the warden, hoping he would do something about it. But that man laughed in her face and added more time to her sentence.
Lord Jesus.
Then Aisha got out of the hospital and her beef with Nikki picked right back up. It's just a lot going on. Then on top of me already being irritated about what happened to Wet, Sabrina has the nerve to say,
Wet took the warden's rejection pretty bad. We had a nice little party.
Sabrina, who is this we? I completely understand that Sabrina's character is supposed to be telling the story from an omniscient point of view. That's why she knows everything and talks about stuff she wasn't in the room for. But I had to do some research to make sure I wasn't tripping. Omniscient narrators aren't typically also characters within the story. So for Sabrina to also be a character within the story, it has to make sense for her to keep inserting herself into the storyline as if she was there every step of the way. She talks about Lil Mama Wet, Frances, and Nikki as if she was right there in the trenches with them, and I'm just not seeing it. Sabrina, you were not in the trenches with these women. It's actually hilarious to me. Sabrina, move. Anywho, now we're in the kitchen with Frances, Nikki, Wet, and Lil Mama who are eating and drinking their contraband and growing closer to each other.
Here's to our babies and survival.
I heard that.
Then suddenly Captain Demon comes in and of course they hide. All he would have to do is breathe in my direction and I'd be hiding too. They watch him put some kind of contraption on one of the stoves, causing it to explode.
What's going on?
It turns out Captain Demon has his own scam going on behind the warden's back. Supposedly some of his friends got the contract for the prison kitchen that's suddenly in need of a remodel. But of course Captain Demon blamed the explosion on the inmates, causing the prison to go on lockdown.
No visits, no phone calls, no nothing after that.
Word does get back to Warden Nelson about Captain Demon's scam though, and he wastes no time putting his foot on that man's neck. I mean, he gets all up in Captain Demon's ass.
I run this fucking prison, not you.
Then Warden Nelson tells Captain Demon if he doesn't tighten up, he's going to put him back in the Florida swamp walking the guard tower where he found him.
The mosquitoes buzzing all around your ass.
Oh, now that's how you clear a bitch.
Captain Demon getting ate up does bring me great joy, but with joy there is pain. Warden Nelson also got on Captain Demon's neck for allowing Wet's petition to get to his office. He sees it as Captain Demon not fully doing his job by keeping everybody in line because how Wet got a whole petition circulating around and you don't know about it.
Are the inmates in control now?
No, sir.
This leads to Wet being dealt with and put in the hole. Then we end up back in Captain Demon's office and Lord have mercy, Lil Mama works there now. She says she replaced Sabrina, making it the first time any of our main characters have acknowledged Sabrina's existence.
You must be my new girl.
Yes, sir. I'm replacing Sabrina.
So wait a minute, the writers decided to throw in there that apparently Sabrina has worked in Captain Demon's office this whole time and they did nothing with it that could have made her character have actual involvement in the storyline? Okay. Then Captain Demon, being the nasty, funky, stanky, vile, repulsive creature that he is, trashed Lil Mama in the worst way.
Yeah, you and I gonna work out this fine.
Can I go now, sir?
I'm not stopping.
And we must remember that depending on how much time has passed, Lil Mama is just 17 years old, so this shit is real disturbing. And I knew when I decided to do this that this universe wouldn't be fun, and I've been trying to throw in jokes here and there to keep things light, but ain't shit funny for real. I'm having a horrible time, and I already know I haven't even gotten to the worst of it just yet. After Captain Demon's revolting interaction with Lil Mama and Wet coming back from the hole with a scar on her beautiful face,
Dee's tried to do, and Wet came back from the hole with that nasty scar on her face.
Wait a damn minute. What?
Flashback.
When Nikki's mama was coming to bring the babies that she had in jail,
Flashback.
I'm tired of being programmed.
Let me get back on track. After what happened to Lil Mama and Wed, the women decide that it's a must that they fight back in some way. Somewhere off camera, Seal Def told them about Wall Corp coming, so they come up with a plan to start another petition and hand it off to the Wall Corp people given the chance. Captain Demon is too busy being nasty, funky, stanky, foul, and repulsive to catch on to the plan while it's still being organized. Then the day arrives when the Wall Corp people are supposed to show up and the women are just trying to get their heads in the game. Well, everybody but Sabrina, who we finally see interact with our main characters and so-called the women she was in the trenches with, but it's just her telling them not to depend on her and not to ask her shit.
I ain't got nothing to do with it. Don't depend on me. Don't ask me shit.
Then before the big showdown, Nikki decides that Francis should be the one to read their demands while she just hands them off.
Why? You the leader. As soon as I stand, they're gonna suspect that some shit's about to go down.
In the sweatshop where the women see their opportunity, the plan starts off decently. Francis reads the demands.
Better living conditions, better work conditions, better heat.
Then Sabrina has to insert herself in the story by being the first person to stand up to back Francis.
I stand behind her too.
Sabrina, please. But a lot of the other women and even Aisha stand up to back Francis also.
I stand behind her. I stand behind her.
But the problem is they got that man from Wall Corp shook. I mean, homeboy is stuck. He did not expect all this to be going down today, so he's just standing there with his hands in the air. And before Nikki can hand him the petition, Warden Nelson ends up snatching it and all hell breaks loose.
Go back to work, all right?
In the aftermath, Nikki and Francis end up getting put in the hole because I guess they were seen as the ringleaders, and the state saying they talk to each other through the wall or vent or something. And this is when we learned that Nikki is in there for robbery, and much like with Wed, it was another for my man situation.
What a reason when they're always doing some old dumb shit for a nigga.
No, sir. Not me.
Nikki and Francis also talk about how it's crazy that Francis was the type to always follow the rules while Nikki never did, but they still ended up in the same place. Then while we're already dealing with a whole lot, the devil pays Nikki a visit. It's revealed that she has a history of drug abuse that Captain Demon knows about and probably at one point was taken full advantage of. But by the grace of God, our girl is able to control herself. Then after a week, I think, or it could have been longer, Francis and Nikki are released from the hole. And just when you thought the movie couldn't get any darker, just when you thought that maybe the writers would have mercy on us, they simply say, Francis gets a visit from her sister who's looking after her daughter Maxine while she's incarcerated.
I tried to come see you, but they said everybody was on lockdown.
And I was in solitary.
Well, I should say was looking after her daughter Maxine because Maxine is dead. She died 2 weeks ago while the prison was on lockdown and Francis was in the hole.
What bullet?
It got Maxine! She died 2 weeks ago!
This is some sick shit. Why am I reliving this? Why am I doing this to myself? I don't want to do this anymore. And I ain't even got to the worst of it yet. I can't. And I won't. No, let me finish what I started. While Francis is on watch, we find out that Wed has a man on the outside who she has been talking to about what's happening in Whitehead. That man is in contact with a lawyer who says that all they need to do is get hard proof to expose everything. This all comes to fruition when one day while everybody is on the yard, Aisha of all people approaches them. It's because now she hates Captain Demon's guts just as much as Nikki, and she wants in on the plan she knows they're working on.
Nikki, you know who I'm talking about. D's. I know y'all over here planning something.
She has a black eye that obviously was his doing, and she says she wants to see him go down so bad that she can taste it. Of course, Nikki, Wed, Francis, and Lil Mama don't trust her, but Aisha swears on the life of her child that if she doesn't get revenge on Captain Demon, they can take her out.
Never know, baby, we could do a little business.
Yeah, we'll call you on that. We'll call you.
So then the plan is born, and even CO Death is willing to help. So the first part of the plan is for Aisha to get Captain Demon on his office camera doing unspeakable things to her. She shows up to do that, but remember, he switches out the footage and he doesn't forget to do that before doing anything with Aisha, but he's also so distracted that when Lil Mama comes back in saying she forgot her Bible, he doesn't think twice about it. So he doesn't peep her switching it back to real-time footage. The first part of the plan comes together flawlessly, and even after the hell she had to endure, Aisha remembers to switch the footage back so Captain Demon won't suspect anything. The next part of the plan is for Lil Mama to get the tape out of Captain Demon's office and give it to CO Death, who's going to give it to West's boyfriend. Then West's boyfriend is going to get it to somebody who works for the governor. The day the second part of the plan is supposed to go down, Lil Mama shows up to work, but Captain Demon's office is locked because he took off early, leaving them no choice but to try again. And knowing what I know, that definitely was a bad omen, because the shit that follows, I can't even put into words how horrendous it is. All I can do is try to tell it how it happens. Lil Mama shows up to work the next day to put the plan into motion. She's just waiting for the right opportunity to slide the tape into her Bible case, but she never gets a chance to do that. For whatever reason, this is the day Captain Demon decides to follow through on his monstrous urges towards her. And if you've never seen this movie, all I can say is that what happens is as horrible as you can imagine. I don't want to be in this universe anymore, but I've made it this far. The other women who are waiting on Lil Mama realize that something is wrong when Captain Demon doesn't show up to a meeting he was scheduled to go to.
Deez was supposed to be at that meeting.
Then Lil Mama finally reaches them, but she is visibly hurt, so they quickly rush and try to get her some help. They get her to the infirmary where the doctor discovers that Lil Mama is having a miscarriage, but during the midst of it, she's able to tell them what happened to her. Then she goes into cardiac arrest and starts fighting for her life, but you already know we're about to lose her because the movie starts doing that flashback shit. Like, movie, please. I'm already fighting the urge to bang my head against the wall. This is too much. Lil Mama dies, and rightfully so, Nikki, Francis, and Wet proceed to lose their shit and basically take over the prison. Captain Demon shows up thinking he's Boosie Badass, but ends up getting shot and letting one off on his way down and taking out the doctor.
Loser!
Meanwhile, Cervantes is trying to tell Warden Nelson that maybe they should notify the governor because shit has gone beyond out of control, but he says they're going to take care of it in-house.
You can handle this in-house. Deal with the fallout afterwards.
I don't think that's such a good idea.
Shut up!
Whoa, big guy. You sound like you're a little frustrated and mad.
We cut back to Francis, Nikki, and Wed, and they have allowed CO Death to leave because they don't have no beef with him, but they're keeping Captain Demon as a hostage. Now, since all of this happened so suddenly and wasn't planned, at first they are puzzled about what their next move will be, but after brainstorming a little, they decide that they want to talk to the governor, so they call Warden Nelson and tell him he has an hour to get the governor on the phone or else. And where is Sabrina, you ask, while Nikki, Wed, and Francis, the women she was so called in the trenches with, have taken over the prison? She's smoking with CO Death and doing absolutely nothing that warrants her to feel like she's just as much a part of this story as them. Sabrina, you were not in the trenches with these women. We jump back to the action where Warden Nelson has called the women to tell them that there's no deal unless he's able to talk to Captain Demon first. Nikki and Wed drag him over to the phone and they force him to admit that he was responsible for the deaths of Lil Mama and the doctor, but when Francis turns her back to resume her conversation with Warden Nelson, Captain Demon sees it as his time to shine. He snatches her up, attempting to fight for his sorry ass life. Captain Demon has put these women through so much in this movie that I don't even blame them for losing their heads and offing him, even though he was their only leverage. While Nikki is filling Captain Demon with bullets, we find out that he was the father of her twin boys. I think it's very realistic, and I actually like the fact that they aren't organized criminals and they did allow their emotions to get the best of them.
Finally, somebody got her.
Now, this is where the movie starts to go off the rails for me a little bit. You can tell that they just wanted some more heart-wrenching moments without really making them make sense. Cervantes shows up armed and loaded with a whole lot of backup, and she starts screaming from outside the building for them to come around the corner with their hands up.
Come around the corner with your hands up.
Wait, where you going?
Whit decides to take her ass outside and start shooting, and I'm supposed to be shocked and clutching my pearls when she gets hit. There was no logical reason for Whit to go outside. They just wanted another sad moment. A moment that Lisa Ray's acting skills could barely handle. I mean, she was trying her best and I could tell. After everything, Nikki and Francis weigh their options, and in the end they decide to go out there and see what they got waiting for them, and they get lit the up. I mean, they don't show it, but even as a child, I always imagined that they got lit the up, Cleo style. But the crazy thing is, they didn't even go out there with no guns or anything. They were basically surrendering and still got lit the up. That's wild. Aisha's the one who ends up getting taped by the Captain Demon's office, and Sabrina says that's what helped them win the lawsuit when we jump back to present day with her. But unfortunately, Aisha was murdered in a fight not long after the takeover, so everybody died but Sabrina, and even though she didn't do anything, she got to reap all the benefits. She dedicates the victory to her girls, Wet, Lil Mama, Francis, and Nikki. Then she dares to end it by saying,
"Don't forget me. I'm Sabrina. And that's my motherfucking life."
Sabrina, you were not in the trenches with those women. This movie was made with $1 in a dream, literally. When I decided I wanted to talk about this movie, I did a little internet surfing and ran across an article or two where the director Nima Barnett talks about how difficult it was to finish this film. It took her 3 years to pull this together. From the cast and crew getting sick to them getting shut down, a lot was going on. I'll link the articles down below if anybody feels the need to read about Nima Barnett's trials and tribulations with Silver Brand themselves. But personally for me, Silver Brand is definitely at least in my top 30 when it comes to black films. Like I said, I grew up on Silver Brand, so it's always been a part of my life, and the spirit moved me to talk about it because to this day it's still in the shadows. People really don't be knowing this movie like that, or they just don't feel it's important enough to bring it up in conversation. I don't know why. And I'm not saying it's the best movie ever. It obviously has its flaws. The budget was practically non-existent, and it shows. Something about the way Silver Brand is filmed makes it hard for me to fully immerse myself into the world. I mean, the whole duration of the movie feels like they're on a set, and I mean they are, but it's not supposed to feel like it. But despite its flaws, I still feel like Silver Brand deserves more recognition, and everybody should at least watch it at least once in their lifetime. I mean, Pootie Tang gets more recognition than Silver Brand. That's crazy. And I love Pootie Tang myself, but I've also known about Silver Brand since I was a child, and I think it's very important because I be knowing what I need to know when it needs knowing. If you know, what the hell am I talking about?
You ain't my friend. You is my enemy.